Good afternoon, good evening. We are so happy to be here today after a long, long journey, finding some money and working together. And now we have this official kickoff here, and for our project Encounters with Southeast Asian Modernism, and we want to learn from Southeast Asia, not vice versa, in both directions. Before we go in deeper inside, I want to make another thank you. Mr. Buchwald just said the ambassador of Singapore is here. I'm very happy that you could find the time. Lawrence Bay, thank you very much, because he's not only supporting us with talks and so on, but also they supported us for the drinks tonight. So big thank you to Singapore. Yeah, this is fantastic. So we four are the initiators and the artistic directors of Encounters, and every one of us will tell you something about the project. I have the chance to begin. My name is Sally Belo, and we've been working since 1 year now, since we have received the money from the Federal Foreign Office, and now we had 6 months of hard work together with all our curators, and I'm so happy that all curators from our project are here today. Everyone came. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for this engagement to work with us, and it's not easy sometimes with the schedules and so on, but everyone is here now. Thank you very much. After this symposium, we are together with our curators for 4 days on the road. We are visiting Haus der Statistik, we are visiting Dessau, we're going to the Märkisches and so on to talk about modernism, to see what is different between Asia and our modernism and so on. And in October and November, we have the SEAM spaces, the Southeast Asian Modernism spaces in Phnom Penh, Jakarta, Yangon, and Singapore. A short glimpse you will find in some of the lectures today, but they are not completely telling you what is happening in these countries, in these cities, in the SEAM spaces, but we hope we have an overview about different views on Southeast Asian modernism in these cities. This expression of modernity in Southeast Asia is mostly unknown here, I think, not for people like you, but for a lot of other people. So what we want to do is to spread the word and show what's happening there and what is wonderful in modernism in all these cities. Who cannot participate in all these cities. We will have a log on our website and so on, and we will document all the things that happen so that we can tell after this and in between, and maybe you can follow us a little bit later then. In all parts of the world, even in Berlin, modernist architecture is in danger, yes? And so, especially in Southeast Asia, and I think our curators will tell you something with this too. And so I'm very happy that we can try to protect with our project a little bit, maybe we try, yes? So next, I think I hand over to Moritz now, and because he wants to talk about Bauhaus and SEAM, Southeast Asian Modernism, to you.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So, can I keep this? Can I use this here? Because I need the paper. So, okay, I'd like to address that. You might wonder what the Bauhaus has to do with Southeast Asia, and in fact, our intention was not to draw a direct line from the Bauhaus to Southeast Asia, because this direct line, like migrating architects, doesn't exist at all. So So, and the other thing is that development of modernism in the world is not a one-way street from one direction to another, and especially not from Germany to the rest of the world. So nevertheless, the project is part of the Bauhaus here, and we think for good reasons, because there are some similarities. And just like to mention a few words. So because it was quite similar situation, so that during a period of radical change after the First World War, the famous German School of Art and Architecture provided the aesthetical and architectural program for the country's new democratic state with its agenda of social reform and cosmopolitan politics. After the Second World War, the Bauhaus and other modern architectural concepts served as guiding principles for reconstruction and new beginnings in Germany and Europe. But in many countries of Southeast Asia in the mid-20th century likewise marked the start of a new era as former colonies gained their independence. So the young states such as Burma, which is today Myanmar, Indonesia, Cambodia, or Singapore were faced with the task to establish themselves as new nations and defining their own post-colonial identity in an international context. So their efforts often included the use of architecture and urban planning to express this new beginning. The architectural language of international modernism offered an open contemporary form that reflected, on the one side, their expectations of progress and prosperity while signaling their emancipation from former colonial rule. Local approaches were created that combined universal design ideas of modernism with specific cultural references and an understanding of the climatic challenges of building in the tropics. Encounters, the project Encounters, will explore the impact of modernism at the crossroads between early globalization, local conditions, and the search for a known identity, starting with a period of upheaval that accompanied the transition to independence after colonial times. So furthermore, architectural concepts and their spatial adaptations will be addressed in terms of their relevance for contemporary urban society. The project, as Sally said, seeks to raise awareness about the development of post-colonial modernism in Southeast Asia and to demonstrate its, that's at last what we think, underlying potential for the future. It aims to illuminate specific cultural achievements in Southeast Asia in the context of national independence and to provoke new questions on globalization and local adaptation. So each of the 4 locations, like Phnom Penh, Jakarta, Yangon, and Singapore, will be examined in terms of the respective framework conditions and models of social development, raising questions such as how did local modernisms emerge in Southeast Asia, what role did international discourse play in their development, and what concepts do they offer today? What promises can be found in the architectural concepts, what values and ideas underlie them, and what narratives are inscribed in the design? And last but not least, how do architecture and urban design that developed from modernist concepts reach beyond the local context to impact the broader global discourse? So these are a couple of questions that we want to address during the next weeks and months. But I want to especially mention that Encounters was initiated from Germany and is in the context of the German Bauhaus centenary, but it's not a German project. And Christian will tell you a bit more about the non-German part.
Thank you, Moritz. Can I get the microphone? Okay, so thank you, Moritz and Sally and Eduard, that I can be part of the team. I'm very curious. And indeed, our project Seam Encounters is not a German project. And I think this is another interesting parallel to the Bauhaus, because I also think that the Bauhaus was not a German project. Of course, it was initiated in Germany, but it's totally impossible to understand the Bauhaus without the international networks of teachers, students, institutions, and initiatives the Bauhaus was working in. We share this deep interest in circulating ideas over borders in the hope to overcome them. So from the beginning in 2016, because the official part started this year, but of course we were thinking much in front of this year already about the project. We got in touch with many people in Southeast Asia, and we got really fantastic support, inspiring impulses, but also critical comments from several contributing parties from the whole Southeast Asian region and beyond. So the spaces themselves are implemented by curators, researchers, and artists from the respective countries. And for us, it was really now a wonderful experience to see how every team found its very specific way and perspectives to narrate the multiple modernities. We are talking about modernities in plural, not to have this singular direct line of modernity from the Western to the other parts of Germany, as you also said. It's not the Bauhaus being exported to the world, but it's part of a global network of people and ideas. So when we started to work together, we thought of a small project, having pop-up exhibitions with some posters, photographs, kind of a small program of 3 days in every city. And then some dynamics really happened because almost all curators, started to work with our impulse and developing their own huge complex exhibitions, which not only run for 3 days, as we thought about it, but for weeks and months in some parts. And there's a expanded program with workshops and tours and discourses and many other things that were really unexpected to us. So the programs are crossing over different disciplines, and they're expanding the architecture discourse into many other fields. So we would like to deeply thank all participants for this inspiring collaboration so far. I mean, we had an applause already, but maybe we can do another one right now. Great that you are all here and we see you now for the first time. And of course, the Encounters project is not the only project shedding light on the modernist architecture in Southeast Asia. A lively discussion has been taking place in Southeast Asia since years already. With our project, we only hope that we can contribute a bit to this discussion and establish some new, unexpected, uncommon networks, but also strengthen the discourse in Germany in the future. So you can all be sure that it's not the last time tonight that you hear about Encounters, but keep your eyes open in 2020. And of course, as Sally said, we will have a blog on our webpage where you can follow the whole team on this 4 countries and the project that will be realized there. So before I hand over the mic to my colleague Eduard Kögel, he will be moderating the first panel. I would like to briefly introduce Ute Bauer, who will moderate the later part of today's program together with Eduard as well. I'm very glad, especially glad to have her on board for several reasons. She's a cosmopolitan curator, teacher, and scholar. She gave crucial impulses for many transnational and transdisciplinary exhibition projects and other experimental collaborations. So here are just some brief insights into her career. Ute Bauer is now since a couple of years based in Singapore, where she became the founding director of the Center for Contemporary Art and a professor at the Nanyang Technological University. One starting point of her career, so she's quite familiar here in Berlin, was working at the Kunstwerk in Berlin and being the artistic director of the 3rd Berlin Biennial. Later, she moved on to Cambridge, becoming the founding director of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They founded the program in art, culture, and technology, which might be also something that's relevant for us. She was a co-curator of the Documenta 11 and still served there in the advisory board. And she's also, coming back to the Bauhaus, she was in the advisory board of the Bauhaus-Dessau Foundation, so she's not only familiar with Southeast Asian modernism, but also with the Bauhaus. So we are also very happy that we can host the concluding symposium at the CCA in Singapore, and that's it from my side. Thank you. And I give over the mic to Eduard. Thank you.